What's up everyone? Welcome back to another video. So I heard you've been searching for the most cinematic camera settings for your drone. Well, guess what? I got you covered once again. So without wasting time, let's dive right in. Oh, wait. Not literally dive in. So what are the most cinematic camera settings for your drone? Well, starting off, let's take the basic stuff out the way. First of all, you've got to be shooting in custom white balance. I know this may seem intuitive because you should be doing it in your camera, so the same thing applies to your drone, but I've seen many people, for some reason, shoot auto white balance on their drone. Now when you do that, you're flying your drone, you tilt up, rotate, or pan left to right, the lighting's gonna change and so is your white balance. So you're gonna have a shift in colors because the camera's trying to compensate for that white balance by switching it up. So you wanna set it at a custom number and stick to it. So when you pan left to right or tilt up and down, the lighting's gonna be the same. That way it looks more professional. It's pretty much the same with your camera. You set it manually to the Kelvin range that suits the environment you're shooting in, outdoor, indoor, shade, that kind of stuff. So the same exact thing applies to your drone. It may seem intuitive like I said, but I've seen many people not do it, so I thought I'd bring it up. So first thing is custom white balance. Let's jump into point number 2, which is D-Log. Personally, I'm not a fan of shooting log profiles. It's just too much color grading. But when it comes to the Mavic drone or pretty much any drone, they usually have a small sensor. Unless you're shooting with the Inspire, that's a different story. But for the most part, they have a really small sensor and you want to maximize the dynamic range. And that is why I tend to shoot with D-Log. You can get pretty much as much dynamic range as you can from that small sensor. So any small factors will help and increase that dynamic range. Some people like to shoot Cinelike D, but according to the film poet and his test, he found out that there's a better highlight roll off from D-Log. So you get a smoother transition from the highlights to the midtones and shadows, or from highlights to shadows. It's a lot smoother in D-Log than Cinelike D. It is a little bit of a hassle to color grade in post, but it's good practice and you want to make the most out of the drone, and this is one way to do it. Like I said, I personally don't like shooting log, but when it comes to shooting with the Mavic or any drone, I go for log because I really want to maximize the dynamic range and get the best image quality possible. So that again is D-Log and color profiles out the way. Another thing, since we spoke about the film poet, he's got an excellent test about sharpness. If you're using the Mavic in specific, this one's mostly for the Mavic, other drones are probably going to be different. You want to have it set at +1 because it's going to give you the most amount of sharpness. Counterintuitive to what you probably would do is reduce the sharpness in other scenarios, but in this specific one, what happens is, to summarize, what happens is when you shoot at 0 or -1, the drone starts to introduce noise reduction, and that really eats up the quality, and you have some soft spots around the edges. So +1 is the way to go for sharpness to get the maximum sharpness out of your DJI Mavic drone. Now the last point I'm gonna go over today is the shutter speed. Just like when you're shooting in camera, you wanna have your shutter speed double your frame rate. Same thing goes with your drone. You have a camera in the air, it's still a camera, so you wanna get that appropriate motion blur by having your shutter speed double your frame rate. A lot of people have been asking on my previous video, well, when I do that, my video is overexposed. Well, that's where you wanna use an ND filter. And right here I have the PolarPro ND filters along with polarizers for the Mavic Pro. They have them for the Phantom series as well, along with other drones, the GoPro Hero 4. I recommend getting high quality filters because the Mavic Pro camera is not that great already. If you're gonna put a bad filter on it, it's probably gonna ruin your footage even more. You're gonna get less quality. So get some high quality filters. They have them with an ND and Polarizer, comes in different strengths, ND16, ND8, ND32, and all that good stuff. So you simply just pop it on your drone right here, and you have a nice little ND filter. That drops your shutter speed to the appropriate number, so you can get that 180-degree shutter rule where I keep making the same mistakes, where your shutter speed is double your frame rate. So that's the way how you can bring your shutter speed down to achieve that 180-degree rule. So you get that cinematic motion with the right amount of motion blur in your drone. And a good thing about these filters too is they have a polarizer with ND. What a polarizer helps with is it really brings out the colors and saturation. When you're shooting water or the sky, it really makes it pop out and stand, along with the greens and the grass. It makes it stand out and pop. So that's a good thing for that. Now, another thing that I've noticed personally from when I've been shooting with the Mavic is that I personally found it better to expose correctly or slightly underexpose rather than overexpose. And I'll tell you why that is, because what I found out is when you overexpose and try to bring down the highlights, it kind of tortures the quality. I'm not sure why, and it doesn't look that great. Whereas if you slightly underexpose and just slightly lift up the shadows or adjust the exposure in post, you kind of get a better result than overexposing. I think that's just what I found personally. It's not a scientific test or anything. You guys can test it out to see if it works for yourself, but I just thought I'd throw that out there in case it helps anybody out. And that's pretty much it for this video. I think that's about it. It covers most of the cinematic settings, I believe. And since I covered the most cinematic settings, next video, I am going to go over how to make your drone footage look cinematic, and I have a lot of awesome tips lined up that I think will really step up your drone game. So stay tuned for that one. And once again, thank you guys for watching, and happy droning. Sounds pretty weird, but yeah, happy droning. That's it for this video, and I'll see you guys next time.